Hello. You're about to see a video of me fixing up this mower. It was shot over a couple days since I didn't have a continuous time to work on it straight. So have fun and enjoy the video. Hello tubes, got another lawnmower here. This one was given to me by a coworker of my wife's. He can no longer mow his lawn. He has a lawn service. He had a stroke or had medical issues that he can't mow his lawn anymore for his own safety. So he offered to give it to me. This is an old Tecumseh. He hardly ever used this. So I have the bag and the side shot for it. This is a Scott's 3-in-1 6.5 horsepower with a Tecumseh overhead valve engine. And I've had one of these before. It was self-propelled as well, but it didn't have a side shaft like this one does. See how that, you got a shaft coming out of there? That's for the self-propelled. This was made by Murray. So that tells you how old this is. And I don't know yet. I haven't looked at the manufacture date. So I've determined that it has spark. I shot some carburetor cleaner in and it kicked over. And I put some gas in, and it started, well, lack of a better word, pissing out gas out of the carburetor, out of here, which tells me that the seat is bad, or the needle is bad, or something in the carburetor is bad. This fuel line needs to be replaced. It's hard as a rock. So this mower sat for probably about 8 years, maybe longer. So let's see if I can find the manufacture date here. It was made either 2001 or 2000. Here's the, so I took on these Tecumsehs, the bottom bolt is the jet, and it's like a brig, some of the Briggs, where you've got these holes. You see, I've already cleaned this out. See there? And then there's another one, you can barely see it right there. What you do is you take some wire like this, like the inside of a twisty tie for some loaf of bread. You wiggle it around there and then you spray it out with some carb cleaner. Looks like this is going to be a rebuild, and I hate these Tecumsehs. I got the bull out. You know, with these side shaft, it's really hard to work on these. So here's what the bowl looks like inside. A lot of boogers. And this has got an old-fashioned brass float. You know, it's moving. I bet you the seat's all hardened up or something. So, yeah, this is gonna have to come off for me to even work on. No more quick and dirty. I'm going to attempt to clean it without taking it off, which is never a good idea. But I mean, the float moves. And try to get this bowl back on. With these Tecumsehs, you have to align this groove here with like this, because the way the float comes down, because this is the deeper part of the bowl. And then to set the float height, there's a metal tab down there that you set to, I believe it's 11/32 is the amount of space you need, and that looks about right. Hello tubes, I put the carburetor back on. I had to take the belt cover off of it to get access. A couple screws, that comes off. It's in the garage now, but this runs now, but it runs wide open. So something's stuck. I'm probably gonna have to take the carburetor out, but at least it's not leaking fuel anymore. So I'll give you a little start here. Just get my third hand. Oh, and there's the bag and the side chute. Tecumseh is like a fast, like that. can hear it's running wide open, so something's stuck somewhere. I'll get into it. Maybe it's a linkage somewhere in the carburetor. I'll look at it later. Hello, tubes. Back here with this Scott's. I started smelling something, not smelling some gas, so I thought maybe it was leaking out of the carburetor again. And I was wrong. Turns out the gas tank that's on it is cracked right there. So I had to do an emergency repair so I don't get gas fumes in my garage and then they could ignite. So I had this old Tecumseh gas tank from the Toro when it had a Tecumseh on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if it fits on here. So far it fits in the clips. Let's see how this shroud fits on it. I'll cut back in after I get it together. Ta-da! It fits. This fits on the Scott's. This is I think it's not as big as a tank, but hey, it don't leak. So I'll be throwing that out, keeping this one, and I'll put this back on here with the bolts. But I just wanted to show you that you can put a old style gas tank on a newer style Tecumseh engine with one that looks like this. They didn't make many of these. I think this was one of the last years they made, one of the last ones they made. I mean, you see, it was 2000 model. Tecumseh went out of business in 2008, so this was one of the few overhead valves designs they made. Trying to get it on, it doesn't exactly fit because the hole for the gas tank thing here needs to be bigger. It needs to come out more on here, and I'll have to cut this to do that. And this is metal, so that'll take a little doing. I think I gotta take my grinder to it. So till next time, tubes. Hello, tubes. Back here with the Scott's Lawnmower. I've modified the shroud here, grinding off a certain portion of it so it will work with this other gas tank. This part here, where my finger is, that got ground down because the grinder couldn't get that side and this side all by at the same, so I'm gonna have to file this down some. I did do a quick little touch up with some spray paint to cover up any bare metal, but usually it will now the bolt holes will not line up now for it, so it'll go on, and you can unscrew this now. So making a older Tecumseh gas tank fit on this newer, the overhead valve style. The smaller tank, but it doesn't leak. Well, I was talking on mute. Back here with this Scott's Lawnmower, I'm going to now get into the carburetor. This was something's wrong with it where it's the throttle's stuck up wide open. It could be a linkage issue. Hopefully it's not a internal governor problem. So for this one, it looks like you take this top off, then you can get to these bolts here and the one on the other side to get this off. Another way to do it is to take the whole intake off, but I'm not going to do it that way because that's not how I like doing it. Because I don't like touching this because I don't want to take a chance of the bolts that go into the actual block getting messed up or breaking. I got these off, the bolts. They were 5/16. Now make note of this, where this linkage is and where they go to. This one hooks onto the spring and goes onto the governor arm. So note that, and note where this one goes to into the carburetor linkage. Yeah, this is the problem. The throttle is stuck wide open. So I got to take this off, clean it. You got to get this off. Got to take a wrench to one side and socket to the other to get it to go off. It's a, I believe it's a 7/16 on this side and a 5/8 on the other side. Well, it looks like I'm gonna have to take at least the muffler off so I can get to this bolt here. Otherwise I can't get a socket in there. So, Tecumseh. To get these bolts off, I had to take my screwdriver here, bend this tab back, and basically you hit it with a hammer like a chisel to get so your socket can get around this. It's a 7/16, so I can get to it now. Got it off. Don't lose these. This muffler is like 30 bucks new. I had to buy one for the other one I had like this, but I got a used one on eBay for half price, and they were rare because the company didn't make these that much. Got it off. Didn't rip the gasket, so I should be able to reuse this. Just need to clean some of this off, and don't lose these bolts either. Note the linkages, how they're set up. Carburetor off. This is what it looks like. This throttle plate was stiff, and it had ethanol damage. So with some carburetor cleaner and a wire brush, I got this to move freely now. So this was the reason why it was what's the word I'm looking at? Running full, running wide open, because it was stuck wide open like so. I'm gonna open this up, clean it again, and then right in here is where my thumb is pointing to. That little where there's black there, that is where the idle circuit jet is. I'll take that out and show you how that is, and then put it back in. Got it off. This is what a Tecumseh carburetor looks like. It's similar to a Briggs, but not anywhere near as good. This one has a brass float. I've never seen one with a brass float. All the ones I've ever seen were a plastic float. These brass floats have a tendency to leak on the weldings, and then your carburetor floods and it doesn't run anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this out. I did clean it out, quick and dirty the other day from while it was still mounted, but as you can see here in the bowl, it's already got some sediment in there. Now I'm gonna take the needle out, clean it and inspect the seat, and I'm gonna take this hinge pin out for the float. I use a nose pliers to get that out, and it easily comes out. Here is our needle. It looks good. Don't see any signs of ethanol damage. I will clean off this float. It has some corrosion to it. Okay, I'm gonna put this down here. Here is the carburetor. Those round things are Welsh plugs. I'll clean those up. And that white thing there, that's the seat. It actually looks fine. So I don't think I'll have to rebuild this. Something else to note. See if I can get it focus. Back in there, there's 3 holes. Those are jets, and you clean those out with that wire. And then spray it out. Now to get this idle jet. What I did is I took one of my picks that I just got at Harbor Freight not long ago and pulled out this plastic filler. And then you use a flathead screwdriver to get that jet out. They don't want you to know about this jet, but it's there. They hide it. This is what that jet looks like. Just gotta run some carburetor cleaner through it, maybe a wire through there and the side here. You can't get it to focus on it, the camera. There's a hole, and there's another hole. Reassemble, you get the pin back on there, and we ever so carefully let this back down in there, and then put the hinge pin in. Then we can set the float height. Okay. The proper float height gap for Tecumseh carburetors is, see, this is too high, so it's very important for your float because it controls how much fuel gets in. And the proper height is 11/64. See if I can. So what you do is you get a, let me take over the workbench. You see, okay, I'm now using my toolbox as the camera stand. Okay, the proper float height, the distance between here and here is the size is 11/64. So what you do is you get 11/64 drill bit and use that as the spacer. So you see this is too high. So what we do is we take a screwdriver, and we bend, what was that? Oh, hinge pin just fell out. Well, the idea is we bend this tab till we get to the right spacer based off of this 11/64 drill bit. So you stick that in there, and when it's about that right height, you're done. I put the, okay, I just take two. I had the needle fall, the pin fall out. What you do to get this space between the float and the bottom here, which is 11/64, which is this drill bit, is you bend this tab here, this metal tab, down. Excuse me, not down, up, so that you get the proper gap. As you can see, I've now adjusted the float by bending that tab to something that's more acceptable. See, and it's a little bit of space still, but I could probably still stand to bend it a little bit more. It probably won't make much of a difference. But this is the part where the deeper part of the bowl is going to be, so it goes down further or up further. So put the float bowl back on, and you see the hinge pin right there. What you do is, see, this groove you line up with the hinge pin. Okay, yeah, look at it. Even says Tecumseh. This should be in a museum somewhere. Anyway, little joke there. So you slap this on and put the screw in. Got get it all back together. Now for putting it back on the mower. So it's just the reverse of the assembly. So I'm going to shorten up the fuel line because I got a different gas tank now, and reassembly is just the so here, yeah, is the opposite of taking it off. So I'm not going to bore you with the details. This is how I prefer to start it. I don't do this one first. I do the back one first, so I can let this hang down and get this bolt started while I use a kind of a screwdriver with a socket hit on the other side. And I'll tighten it up later. Hello, tubes. I had to show. My camera ran out of power, so I had to stop, and I continued on putting this back together. This is Scott's mower that I had gotten for free. It's really a Murray thing, and this would be the final look at this. Things I did to it was cleaned out the carburetor. It was dirty, and the throttle was stuck wide open. The air filter is fine. I had to, the gas tank was cracked, so I had this older this other Tecumseh gas tank that fits in the grooves, but the gas tank where the opening is didn't allow it to for these bolts to line up to screw it back on. So I had to take my grinder to grind it to make the hole bigger, and then I went ahead and painted it. But since I didn't have the same color, I decided to just go ahead and paint it green, and just this one section to make it look like it's like part of it. I sharpened the blade, power washed it, and that's it. I mean, I had to resize the fuel line because the fuel line, it was still good, but it was too long with this other gas tank. The gas tank is smaller, but it doesn't leak. It came off of a Toro personal pace with a Tecumseh engine. Only thing is you won't be able to see your fuel level. The other one was white and clear. It was cracked. The oil, it's fresh. This is actually because I had it on its side. That's why it's that high, but it's full. So I'll give you a start here. Oh, and looking at here's the engine specs from Tecumseh. OVRM 120 with the spec of 22033D. This is the first and only side shaft I've ever seen or ever worked on. Side shaft is when you've got this part here coming out to push the self-propelled rather than a pulley that goes underneath. This one's above it, and the pulley goes this way to move the self-propelled, and it works. So without here, I'm going to go ahead and start it. This is a legitimate cold start. I'm not burning my hand on the muffler. Oh, third hand. And all this is a pretty decent mower. It's made better than the new Murrays. This deck's made better. It's solid as a rock. It's really heavy. Again, I got this mower from my coworker of my wife's, who for medical reasons can no longer mow his own lawn, so he has a service. And this mower sat for, I don't know, 10 years in his garage, just sat there. And when he bought it in 2004, it had been sitting for 4 years in a, in a stock room somewhere, because this was made in 2000. This was made in 2000, according to the data manufacturer, or, well, the deck was made in 2000. This says 0103, which says 2001 March. So that's the engine specs. Until next time, tubes. See you later.